Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning my Brazilian rain tree. Here is a look at my Brazilian rain tree. So you can see it's growing really well, nice and strong. These shoots are getting really long. And that's part of the problem, is that it's taking up a lot of space in the greenhouse here. And I could move it outside, but the temperatures at night are still pretty cool. We had that one, week of really high temperatures. And now, like last night, the low was 14 degrees Celsius, which is a little cool. I think the Brazilian rain tree would do okay, but it's a little cool for it. So I prefer to keep it in the greenhouse here until the nighttime temperatures get a little warmer, and then it can go outside for the summer. The other reason is that right at this time of the year, not today, but the sun is the strongest, right, when spring turns to summer. You've got that really strong sun, and yeah, it can burn leaves pretty good. So it's been in the greenhouse here, and if I move it outdoors, it suddenly gets the wind and the full UV sunshine on it, and it may cause some of the leaves to go a bit yellowy, or it may not open up in the daytime. So I prefer to keep it in the greenhouse here a little longer, and then maybe towards, mid-July, I'll bring it outside for the rest of the summer. The other reason I want to prune it is that I've got a lot of shoots that are sticking straight up, and they're kind of out of the profile of the canopy. I don't mind so much these shoots that are going the right direction. I don't mind thickening those up. But I don't want, all this vertical growth to get woody and thicken up. I prefer to prune it now and get some branches going the right direction, branches that I want to keep, and then develop those. I find when you're developing trees, you might prune it once a year or twice a year. And then as the tree gets closer and closer to the shape you envision, you do more and more pruning, and that gets more compact branches, and it kind of refines the structure of the tree. So this tree is kind of halfway in development. Well, maybe not quite halfway, but it's getting closer to halfway. And, I'm at the stage where I can now start pruning it a little more than just letting all these shoots grow really long all summer and then pruning it back and letting them grow long again and pruning it back. It's starting to get at the point where I'm starting to select branches, and the basic primary branch structure is pretty well set now. So I'm kind of working on my secondary branching, and then eventually my tertiary branching, and so on, getting it more and more refined and getting the foliage more and more dense. So my overall goal for this tree is to get a great big rounded umbrella canopy on it. So it's quite far away from that. It's you can maybe see the hint of that in the structure at the moment, but it's certainly not, this big full domed canopy. The trunk on this tree is maturing quite nicely. It's very smooth and flowing. I did repot this tree recently, so it's recovered from the repotting and growing strongly once again. But yeah, the trunk is starting to look quite graceful and smooth and flowing. As I said, my goal is to create this big umbrella canopy on the tree. And there's some branches, that are contributing to the thickness and the width of the canopy, but they're just straight. So, you still have to cut it back, develop more and more ramification and movement, and taper to the branches. So after today, I think, this tree will be quite compact once again. And then, I'll let the branches grow out again, prune it back a little, let them grow out, and slowly develop that width and that umbrella shape. I'll take away the lady underneath the tree here and begin the pruning. So I'm going to start, there's a branch, a really nice branch going a nice direction out here. It's a very flat branch. But again, I don't want it, you don't want a straight branch sticking way out here. So I'm going to prune it back. And I'm doing some directional pruning. I could take it, really far back to here. So there's a leaf over here and one here. so I'd get it bifurcating. But I think that's a little short, so I'm going to prune it here. And I always leave room for dieback, so I always prune halfway between the nodes, like that, taking the tip off that branch. There's another, really nice horizontal one here, so I'll do the same. I'll prune it off right here, shortening that branch. There's one here, another good horizontal one. And I'll prune it off here. There's a lower horizontal one here. I'm going to take it back to here. And I'm, again, pruning quite conservative at first. And then once I take a look at the tree, I may decide to bring it in a little tighter. There's a branch back here. I can prune back to here. And there's a mosquito on me. Got him. Now, these vertical ones, I'm always looking for the trunk line. So I'm up front here and I'm looking at the trunk line, deciding what I want to keep. You can see this branch is kind of cutting back in over the apex, which isn't too bad. It's a bit of a zigzag branch. So I think I'll just take it back to here and here. Like that, just shortening it for now. And then, as I said, at the end of the day, I'll come in and have a look at the design of the tree and decide if I need to remove any branches or reduce it back further. So there's one coming out here. I'll take it back to here. This one here is kind of sticking up a bit. I'm going to take it hard back to there. There's a shoot sticking straight up here. Again, I'm looking for leaf direction. I think I need to hard prune it back to here. Now, I've got a shoot here that's getting quite long. And it's a bit vertical. I think I'll take it back quite hard to here. This one can come back to here. This one to here. This one back. Right back to here. So this directional pruning helps all that new growth come in the right direction. So that's the goal of directional pruning, is to kind of guide where the new growth comes in. So the mother cat moved her kittens last night. We heard a mewing, and yeah, she moved them into a basket in the shed there. So they're okay. It's just a strange thing to do to move them. There's a branch here that's crossing back. I want this branch to flow outwards, so I'm going to remove it totally. Just a little one. Okay, I've got a shoot out the back here. I could reduce a bit. And I think that's got all the growing tips. Well, not all of them pruned back, but most of them. I could take this one back a bit. Yeah, so the tree is kind of a little more compact now. So the next thing I need to do is kind of go in and look at the branches and decide what I want to keep and what I want to prune. There's one up the front here that's getting a little long. I better take that back. Yeah, let's have a look at it from the front. So if I imagine that umbrella canopy, I can put my hand over here. Like, I'm not very good at making umbrella canopies. Something like that. There's a few shoots here that are a bit high. So I'll see if I can take this one sticking straight up here. I could definitely reduce it back to here. That helps. There's one at the back here that's a little tall here, so I'll look, see where I can reduce that. Right back to here. And this one's a little tall. I'll see if I can reduce that anymore. And I can. There. Now, looking from the front, I may be a little tall in the apex here, so I'll take it back a bit further to here. Yeah, I'm hoping to get something a little more horizontal coming out of this branch. It's sort of reaching upwards still. I'll just check and see if there's any kind of leaves pointing a better direction that I could prune it back to. Not really at this point in time. There's one branch kind of crossing here. I could either prune it or redirect it. I'll try redirecting it out front. There's a branch that starts here and it crosses the entire tree over to here. So that needs to be removed entirely. It doesn't flow at all. So that one's coming off. So I'm just looking for other structural problems. There is this branch coming out the front here that's quite low. I think eventually it'll have to be removed, but it's kind of nice to have something there. Or is it? No, I think it does. It divides back here, and there's one part of it that kind of crosses the trunk line and comes out to the side here. The other one sticks out straight towards the viewer, so I think I better just take it off. It's going to be a future problem. So here I go. I think that's pretty well got the tree pruned up. I will just do a double check, make sure there's no branches I've missed. So here is a look kind of from above. So you can see, you know, there's a few holes in the canopy. It's not there yet structural wise, but it's getting there. It's getting closer every year. I originally envisioned, you know, an umbrella canopy with the branches hanging down here and that. And that may come in the future. You know, as you get these horizontal branches, then you'll get some angular branches coming off them that points downwards a little more. You prune that. You get another branch that points downwards a little more, and you gradually build up this nice umbrella shape. But yeah, I'm very happy with the tree. It's a beautiful species for bonsai. And it's just a joy to look at and watch grow. Here's a look at what I took off today. So, well, not too much actually. It's just a few long branches, bit of tidying up in the structure, and yeah, the tree can grow once again. I could park, you know, one of these Land Rovers under the rain tree. You see a lot of photos on the internet of rain trees with vehicles parked under them. Or I could put the lady back leaning against the tree. Like that. So that didn't take too long to prune up the rain tree, so I have time to prune up one more tree today. The next tree I'm going to prune up is my Pyracantha or Firethorn tree. I repotted this in spring in this really nice pot. This tree had almost a perfect root base when I repotted it. It was quite nice. I got them all nice and radial and sorted out. That could change in the future. You know, you might get one root fattening up more than the others. So Yeah, it'll take a lot of root work. So it recovered very quickly from the root work. It even has berries forming on here. And you can see my intent was to get branches spreading out. And one has really taken off and it's thickening up. And it's got some wicked thorns on it too. I'll give you a close-up of the tree. So here's a look at the berries. They're right there, and I'm not sure what color they'll turn. Some of them turn orange in fall, others turn red, and you might be able to get a yellow variety, I'm not sure. And here's a look at the thorns right here, and I'm not sure why they call it the Firethorn, but I assume it's because it hurts. They're very, very sharp. And it probably really hurts like fire when you get pricked by it. So there's the main structure. So I've got a few low branches, just one I guess. There's a couple there. A few low branches. I pruned off a really thick branch here and it's got a little shoot developing there. Another thick branch here and I have some shoots developing. So yeah, it's doing all right. I just need to prune this big, thick, long shoot back, which is starting to subdivide and get a ton of vigor. So I want to reduce the vigor in that branch, leave the smaller branches alone so they kind of catch up in vigor. All right, so here I go. This will be I think a one-cut pruning today. So I'm looking for a bud that fans outwards. So I've got one here and one here. So I'll prune just above those two outward facing buds. So here I go. Big cut coming up. Just like that. Yeah, so the rest of these branches, I won't touch them at all. I'll just let it grow again. Except I probably should remove these ones at the base of the tree. If I let these thicken up, yes, it would contribute to fattening the bottom of the trunk up, but it might make it look lumpy and I'll get scarring when I do remove them. So it's better to do it when it's young if you're not concerned about building up a really fat trunk tree. So like that. So now you can see the whole trunk line. Yeah, so this can go back outside on the bench. I did have a second Pyracantha or Firethorn, and both of these were started from cuttings. So again, I'm going to remove this lowest branch down here. So I can get in there. There we go. And right at the soil line. There. And then I've got a couple branches down really low here. I think in this case, I'll keep those lower branches. I'm going to prune the tip of this one off just to kind of help balance this branch structure. I'll take the tip off this growing one up here. And I think that's about it. I think the rest look quite balanced. So that's my Pyracantha, my second one, all pruned up, and it can go back on the bench also. Just recently I pruned up my mesquite trees. I pruned them from tall vertical trees. Got their first pruning down to short kind of trunks. I'll show you an update to those. Here's a look at my mesquite trees. So you can see there's new shoots popping out all over the trees, which is kind of exciting because I just pruned them like, I don't know, on 4 days ago, 3 days ago. Not very long ago. So these mesquite trees, once I get some good vigorous growth on top and it's kind of hardened off a bit, I'll repot them. And the mesquite tree has a long vertical taproot. I think that's why it's planted in this tall pot. But they do get surface roots too, which catch, if it rains, the water sits on top of the soil for a while and it takes in moisture there. But in drought times, it relies on that big, thick taproot. So as a bonsai, I don't need that taproot because I'll keep them well watered. So I'll try and, slowly reduce that tap root when I repot them and develop the surface radial roots. My dwarf Romeo cherry is recovering really nicely from the root pruning. This was a tree that had a fairly good root system. Then I root pruned it, repotted it, and the roots kind of went backwards. Some of the roots died off, and it wasn't looking so good. So I'm hoping, I always say, you work with what you have. So I'm hoping, to rebuild the root system. But the top of the tree is growing quite nicely. So that's good. The tree will live. It's just a matter of getting those roots sorted out once again. My wife gave me a leaf cutting off a prickly pear cactus, which is a native cactus to this area. And I was going to try developing it as a bonsai, and I was sick of getting those little thorns in my finger, so I gave it back to her. And she put it in the ground here, and it had some beautiful yellow flowers on it. They've kind of faded away now, but yeah. And they will eventually get a woody trunk on them. It just takes time. So maybe in the future, I'll get it back off of her. Here is Ficus plain, and I mentioned that I think the canopy will be filled out by the end of the hot spell we had, and it's pretty well done that. It's shot out leaves everywhere. It's starting to develop that canopy. So I'm happy to see it growing once again. My ponytail palm over here is doing well. It's getting enormous. You can see the size of the trunk on it now. And this started off as a little tiny tree. It was one of those little starter succulents I got from, I think, Canadian Tire. Yeah, so it's growing really well. So this will be getting a chop this summer. You can see the vertical trunk lines here are starting to get quite long, so I'll be cutting them back. And I do want to grow this tree taller, but I don't just want 3 trunks and then a canopy on top. I want to slowly develop it taller, getting more and more bifurcation in these branches to develop a bit of a crown on the top of the tree. Down here is my black locust. I pruned it back, the tall vertical leader, recently, and it has buds coming out on that, the remains of the leader there. So that's exciting. It's recovering and doing well. Beside the black locust is my mulberry tree, and I was hoping with the last repotting this spring that the tree would start growing with more vigor, but it's still not that vigorous. The leaves are small and it hasn't put on, rapid growth or anything. So it might just take, a while to build up the root system, develop the root system better and get more roots, and maybe the top of the tree will start taking off more. But at the moment it's still, quite alive, but it's a little bit on the weak side. My rubber tree forest here is starting to grow with a lot of vigor now that summer's come. Some of these leaves from the winter are a bit sunburned, but I'll be pruning those off eventually. The forest is getting a little tall and skinny, so once it gets really vigorous this summer, I'll do another hard cutback on it, trying to get them a little more compact and try and get more branching happening in the canopies. The clump style over here is also doing well. And again, I don't know why I have so many rubber trees. I've got the forest and I've got this clump style. I probably should only have one. But I don't know, I like this clump style. I think it has a lot of potential. I think all these trunks will eventually, fuse together. They're starting to fuse together now. And the forest, I'm hoping to develop it into something nice looking someday. It'll be an unusual forest if it does well. I'm hoping to get aerial roots and, develop it into something really special. I didn't do any heavy-duty bonsai work on any of my trees today, just kind of a light pruning. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.